welcome to As Real as They Come Dallas. My name is Yulia Brown, and I would love to introduce my incredible guest today. I have Austin Main and Billy Lamb, and the story that we have today will completely blow your mind. If you are a non-believer, you will become a believer, trust me. So, Austin, when you and I have met, you always have incredible stories to tell, but the last one, when you came up and you said, oh my gosh, you have to meet Billy because Billy has an incredible story, and you went into it, it just totally blew my mind. It's just...
Seriously.
And I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, but those things, when you hear them firsthand, it just makes your hair stand up on your back. It's like, it's amazing. So tell me, what captured you and how did you come about?
Well, we were actually hanging out with a mutual friend, and we were at his house, and it was a barbecue. We were all cooking, and later into the evening, Billy started telling me his story, and I was listening to it, and I was literally like, in my mind, I said, man, this sounds like something out of a movie. This sounds like you couldn't write a better story than this story. And I remember I went home that night, and I literally wrote in like a little notebook I have. I literally wrote like, hey, I want to do whatever I can to get this story heard. And I told Billy, I was like, I want to do anything in my power to get people to hear this story. Because when I heard it, not only was it, scary and captivating and like enlightening, it was also like, it was almost relatable in a sense to where I was like, that could happen very well to me as to, this guy walking on the street as to that guy. And it was a powerful story. And, I'm not going to share any of it. I know he's the one.
But I'm very honored with the fact that one of the first steps where the story is taking place is on our podcast. I'm beyond being honored and very grateful.
Well, I'm happy to tell my story. It needs to be done. So so first off, just a little history on me. I'm 50 years old. This happened as recent. It was February of 2018, so it wasn't too long ago. Yeah. And I was traveling on business. I hadn't been to church since I was, 8 years old, and that was with family, friends. My mom was Mormon. My dad was Baptist. They didn't, neither one of them went to church. They just let me basically do whatever I wanted. Which wasn't, turned out to be not a great thing, but, I learned later on that, where I need to be. But I was traveling for work and had an allergic reaction. They're still not sure what actually happened. I started not feeling well. Flew home from Atlanta, Georgia, back to Dallas, and ended up dying. And I was dead for 6 minutes and saved in a hospital. Thankfully, I actually was, it happened in the hospital, so I went unconscious at home. My wife called 911. They took me to the hospital, and the next day I woke up, and they were basically getting ready to release me. It was around lunchtime. My wife said they sent her home to get clothes for me, and everybody left the room, and apparently I hit the nurse's button and I crashed. Went into seizure, cardiac arrest, and they jumped on me, pounded my chest, one specific nurse, in fact. And so then I was intubated into a coma, and basically woke up in March. So died in February and then back to life in March.
Wow. And
when I came out of the coma, it was really, what I saw, while all this was going on was just, fear. It was just some crazy things, and I'll get into that. But ultimately it was, when I came out, I was basically just paralyzed. I couldn't talk. I couldn't even, shed a tear to let them know that I was in there. So during my coma or during my death, it's kind of not sure of the timing of it all, but a lot happened. I mean, I saw things that were just incredible. It's like I was chained down and forced to watch just all of the cruel things in the world. I saw kids being kidnapped off the street and pulled into alleys, and nobody even noticed. I was able to escape that scene, and then I was in, I was forced to serve, for lack of a better term, like elite just very wealthy people. They were all faceless, and I was walking around, and I couldn't speak then. I just would walk around, and I had food and drinks on a tray, and I would walk around, and they would grab them, and then, next thing I know, like the police break in and just start shooting and arresting people, and I just stood there frozen. And then they go, "You did great." Then they grab me, put me in a chair, tie me up, blindfold me, and then I wake up in another scene, and it's a similar situation. It was, it was really just fear after fear after fear. And then at the point where I ended up finally at a hospital, but it turned out I don't think it was a hospital where I was, because I saw they took me down into a basement and just kind of threw me onto a big pile of baby clothes and dolls, and I just didn't know what it was. I still at this point couldn't move. I was still paralyzed. And I could look over, and as I looked over, I could see babies just dropping down onto a pile. It was just a pile of babies. I mean, I can only attribute it to, abortion. And at the time when all this happened, I didn't understand it. Even when I came out of the coma, it took me a while to even understand what I was looking at. And, to this day, I still figuring it out, So, again, I'm not from the church, so it's hard for me to even explain. I didn't talk about it for a year because I didn't know how to explain it, and I didn't want to scare people, because most people have the story of, I saw a light, I saw my family, I did not see that. I saw just horror, and, all I wanted to do was escape it. So it came to a point where I just started praying. I mean, I literally, I felt like every time I closed my eyes, even when I was, during this time, I could see the devil right in my face and his teeth chattering just back and forth in front of my face. So I opened my eyes up, and then, at some point during this, I heard the nurses arguing whether I was, basically going to survive. And I heard one nurse arguing with another nurse about, she tells the male nurse that, we need this bed for a 12-year-old that just came in. We need that ventilator. This guy's not going to make it anyway. He's going to be a vegetable. We need to just let him die. And so, I could hear it. Couldn't say anything. Like I said, I couldn't even blink to let him know I could hear it. And so the male nurse said, he said, "I think he's going to start to respond. Give him 24 more hours." And at that point, I was in critical care unit, I later learned. And then, so a few days had gone by, and at that point, I started to actually be able to move my hands. And within 48 hours, I actually started to even be able to speak. So the male nurse, he was off. I hadn't seen him, really, I shouldn't even have remembered him from what he told me. So he comes walking into my room, because I was moved from critical care unit to intensive care unit. And he comes walking into my room, and he's got a chart in his hand, my chart, and he's looking at it. And I said, I remembered his name. His name was Rico, Nurse Rico. And I said, "Rico, thanks for believing in me." And he just turned ghost white and looked at me and was like, "You remember me?" And I said, "Yes, you fought for me, And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, I said, "I heard, one nurse saying, 'Let me die.' And you're like, 'Give him 24 more hours.'" And it's like, "Well, here I am, So he literally just started crying. And he's like, you heard me and my wife." He goes, "That's my wife that we were arguing, And he goes, "We weren't even in the room." And he goes, "What else do you remember?" And I said, "I remember you putting on a basketball game." And I said, "LeBron James scored 55 points that night." And I said, "It was the second night in a row he scored 55 points. And he said, he started to put his hands over his face, and he's like, "You were on a ventilator when that happened." He goes, and he just said, "We need to relook at science. I've never spoke with anybody that, after a coma that could even talk, let alone, remember things. A lot of people never even come out of it. It kills so much of your brain when you lose oxygen in your brain." And they saw that, I have gray matter on my brain, and they just didn't know how it would affect. They didn't know if I would actually, they told my wife, be prepared to raise your kids by yourself. And so anyways, he starts asking more questions, and, he was just blown away by it. So within another 3 weeks, I was able to get on a walker and, started getting a lot of my motion back, but I'd lost 50 pounds of muscle. I went from 200 pounds to 150, and I couldn't even lift myself up. But I worked my butt off, and I just kept praying and praying and praying, because every time I closed my eyes, I still saw the devil in my face. So I didn't sleep. They were giving me pain pills, and I would put them under my tongue, and they would walk out, and I'd take them out, and I'd throw them in the trash because I was afraid to sleep. I was afraid to sleep because I was afraid I'd wake up back in hell, wherever I was. I was petrified. And so I just fought and kept praying, and then all of a sudden, the vision stopped, and I was able to relax and able to sleep. So then I get home, and started thinking, why was I saved? Why am I back here? I don't really. It was like I knew I just escaped something, that I'm sure most people never escape. I don't know why I was given a second chance, but I was. And so I started being kind of selfishly thinking, it's like, why me? Why, it's like, and then I realized, prayer is what helped me, so I got to go to church. So I went into a mega church, in McKinney, Texas, Christ Fellowship, sat right in the front row, and nobody sat in the front row except for one gentleman that came up, and there's, 2,000 people in this church. And he came up, he sat 2 seats over from me, and the story was about Paul. And again, I was new to the Bible, so I felt like he was speaking directly to me about Paul being a mute. And I was just like blown away. I'm like, wow, I'm in the right place. So eager to tell the gentleman the story next to me. When it was done, he introduced himself, and I started telling him the story about, I even went into, while I was in the hospital, when I was moved to the regular hospital, a nurse walked by my room, and she comes back and looks back and says, "Oh my God, you lived." And she ran over and hugs me, and she's like, "I'm the one that saved you." And I jumped on your chest and pounded your chest and got your heart going. And she's all, it took, everything I had. And she goes, "I never get to see if people live," because she's a roaming nurse in the hospital. She goes, "So when I do chest compressions and bring them back, I don't know if they lived or died or whatever." So she was just really grateful. And so she tells me why she became a nurse. She says, "My family, it was 2 or 3 kids. I think it was 3 kids, actually. And her husband were in a car accident in Kansas City. They were all in comas from head injuries. And they all survived. And so she became a nurse after that." Yes. So she becomes a nurse, moves to Dallas, and ends up saving me, And so I'm telling him the story. And when I told him the story, he said, "Oh, that's my niece, Megan." So out of all the people in this world, I sit next to the nurse's uncle that saved me. And it blew me away, because that was her, it was Megan. I was like, oh my God, that's her. And I was just like, how many more signs are you going to give me? So, it blew me away. And since then, just so many things have happened. I really feel like, unfortunately, I think the devil had it out for me, to the point where, the next time, as soon as I started getting healed, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. But I didn't get scared. Normally before all this happened to me, I probably would have panicked and not helped her. Me panicking would not have helped her. So, my faith helped her, and she beat it. She's cancer-free a year later. So, she was diagnosed with BRCA2 virus. She's Jewish, and it's a Jewish genetic mutation in the bloodstream. So, it was amazing that I can't be more grateful for what I saw, even though it was the scariest thing ever. And I was afraid to tell my story, and I started telling it, and I get mixed feelings about it. Some people it scares, but for the most part, it's not a bad story, it's a good story. At least for me it is,
That's an incredible story.
One of the best I've ever heard, seriously.
And just things have really, I just look at life a whole lot different now and realize that it's not in my control. I don't get upset when I don't get things my way or things don't happen my way. I know that, I feel like I could be out of work and my plate would still be full. My family would still be taken care of. It's like, I have no fear anymore. So it's great. It's a good feeling to have. So, and I recommend y'all go to church.
And it's really, it's an exquisite story, because I can't even react accordingly to even fathom everything that you had went through. But at the same time, I'm a true believer that we are going through the age of awakening. And like we joked before, back in the day, you tell somebody, oh, I saw a ghost, or I had this experience, and people look at you like, you had lost your marbles.
Right.
And there are people that are still shut down. People don't believe in miracles. People don't believe that there is a higher power that's driving us. And it doesn't matter what denomination you are, what your religion is. The thing is, I've been always fascinated by, let's take me, 200 plus pounds, walking, talking, breathing, thinking, has something going on. Is this an accident? Am I an accident? No, by far not.
Nope.
And God created us in His image. And a lot of people say, well, if God loves us so much, why do we go through these experiences? Why do we go through bad situations? Well, God gave us something that devil is taking away, which is free will. Devil wants to control us. Oh no, you can't make your own decisions. You have to do what I do because I think the best for you.
And tempt us.
And right now, instead of being more free, we're like, well, we're looking out for somebody else to take care of us, which is really takes away from our free will. We are here to learn. We are here to go through our experiences and hopefully ascend and find God, find goodness, and find love, for that matter, because most religions, they are about love. And I think this is exquisite, because I hope your story will help someone that's lost. I don't know how many times I'll be on social media and share something about a prayer, or share about, if we need God in our lives, say amen, and I will have a person or two jump on there telling me, oh, well, why are you always talking about God? And says a lot of false stuff about Jesus, saying a lot of bad stuff about this. But I don't have in my heart to ridicule these people, because I think deep inside, these people are looking for a message.
Yes, they're reaching out.
They're reaching out because they are lost, because they are needing guidance.
They want proof.
They want proof.
Yes.
And that's a human
The proof
nature.
is in here, though. That's it.
If you open your eyes.
That's what I didn't understand.
I had miracles happen to myself as well when I was in my 20th. And just like you, I was like, okay, if God spared me from this, what's going to be next? That means that I need to do something in this world to help people, to guide people,
Absolutely.
To better it. I had a stage 3B Hodgkin's cancer, and I remember basically passing out at home. I was in a very horrible, toxic relationship back then. I was taken to the hospital. They discovered I had cancer. I had a mass size of the softball in my chest.
Wow.
That's why I was coughing nonstop. I was pretty much so oxygen deprived that I couldn't even I couldn't even sit up.
Right.
And I remember going through all of my ordeal with cancer and treatments and radiation and chemo, you name it. Painful experience, and I pray for everyone that's going through it, who's now my mom, unfortunately. She's battling that. And like you said, that experience helped me not to freak out, not to be fearful, but rationally think, okay, I know God got this. There's no accident. It's for one way or the other, there is a reason for it.
Right.
But I remember going back for my annual checkup with my oncologist, and he's coming back crying. He's like, I think your cancer is back. We're both crying at this point. Then I remember being on the boat with my friend. I'm just kind of looking into the stars. I'm praying, devastated. I need to go for another biopsy. And my friend, she gives me a book, which is also like, I'm very big on energy. So between being religious and being Orthodox, I'm also always been kind of guided to be a healer. So, and I only realized that I'm 40 now. That was like almost 20 years ago. And I remember getting this book for the first time in my hands, and it said, power within you, but God created us in His image. Of course, we got power within us as well. To
more than we know,
connect more than we know.
Yes.
Our angels, our guides, they're all around us, and we just have to open up and let go. And I remember praying so hard that I saw myself on a stone pedestal with 4 glowing figures on each corner, going into the doctor's office for biopsy. I have contrast running, and doctor comes up to me and he's like, so you got your film from your PET scan? I'm like, no, nobody told me to bring it. So they put me through the CAT scan machine. Like, we don't see anything to biopsy. I was just blown away. That experience, that was one of the miracles that I had seen. Things were just a complete mess in my life, but I remember feeling like a victim at first. I was like, oh my God, this happening.
Why me? Right.
Poor me, why me? But when I saw this experience, and between being in this toxic relationship, it was like crash course on life. And like you said, you take this experience, you either let it break you, or you just build up and just move forward. And I'm sure, like, from this point on, you will notice that a lot of people are going to come into your life for guidance, including your wife. And God bless her for overcoming that horrible disease.
Yeah, it's amazing. Tougher than I ever gave her credit for sure. She's had, the double mastectomy, and now, she's asked, because of the BRCA2, it could come back. So, she's always, now they know, though, so now they can keep an eye on her and test her, and if she gets cancer again, they can remove it early. It's like, it was almost, the breast cancer was a blessing, because
in disguise.
They caught the BRCA2. It's like, because they don't test for the BRCA virus unless you have cancer. Unfortunately, that's kind of how it works, unless you have a family member that was diagnosed, and then you have a reason to be tested, because it's an expensive test, I guess. So even the doctor, when they were testing for her for the BRCA gene, because she's Jewish, they said, he goes, your insurance may not cover it, even though you had cancer. And he goes, but I'll sneak a peek and let you know. So I was like, yeah, we've just been, I have, 2 young kids, and, to think of them losing either one of us, it would have been harder on them than either one of us, so.
That's devastating, yeah.
So, yeah, we're, life is a lot different now, so,
And it's a true story. There is a battle of good and evil, whether it's in a different dimension, in a different realm, or here.
I think it's everywhere, actually.
It's
unfortunately.
everywhere.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
like, my mother right now, she had an episode where nothing happens as an accident. I remember my mom was prescribed this Levinox, which is great drug for people with blood clots. I'm sure it helped a lot of different people.
Blood thinner.
It's a blood thinner, and it's subcutaneous. You shoot that into your body, and it was literally the matter of 15 minutes. In about 15 minutes, my daughter was about to leave, my dad was about to leave, my husband was about to leave the house. She was going to be there by herself. If that happened, I wouldn't have a story to tell about my mother. She told me, because we called ambulance, her blood pressure was super low. another 10-15 minutes she would have been not here. She was like 70 over 30, something crazy like that,
Right.
maybe even less. Right now,
That
it's
was
just
from the blood thinner.
it's from the blood thinner. She had basically internal bleeding. But what she shared with me, because I shared your story in a short version of that, and she told me when we were in the ambulance, and she didn't share that with me because she was thinking it was going on, and she was like, probably just anything.
Hallucinating.
Right. And she told me, she's like, when we were in the ambulance, was it loud there? I'm like, no. She's like, I was almost getting ready to close my ears. It was so loud. It felt like she was in the yellow light, but ambulance has that cold fluorescent light inside.
Right.
She said she was in this light and she felt like somebody was banging on the ambulance, like the whole ambulance was rattling. And when we took off, all of that stopped. And then doctors were fighting for her life for like 10, 11 hours. She was in ICU and a lot of different things, which was frightening. I was just sitting there just praying for her. I'm like, Jesus, please. I'm like, save my mother. And there she is. And she told me so many different episodes where she was on a life and death situation, but God carried her through. And again, these are not by chance situations. These are things that God and our angels take care of us. And this is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, it's like, people ask me, so what makes you think, God saved you, And I just like, they're like, did you see Jesus, Did you see God? It's like, no, but I know it was him, I know it was in my heart, it's like, I can't explain it. It's like,
You saw his grace, you saw goodness.
He pulled you out
yes,
from the...
I feel like I was in a tug of war. I mean, I can't even, I can't explain it. I have faith now, and I really didn't before, it's...
The real life Constantine situation. I love that movie, and that's what it made me instantly think about.
Yeah, it's not that I was a non-believer before, but I was more, I guess, just, disconnected, and was, believed science, and didn't understand that the Bible is not literal, as far as times, it's like this whole BC thing, and, it's like, time is different in dimensions, it's like where I was, it didn't matter when it was going on, it didn't matter, time didn't matter. It was, I could have been in that coma for 2 years or 3 weeks, and it wouldn't have mattered. I'm very fortunate to have come out of it, but whatever was going to happen was already predetermined. He decided to save me, and I think that he wanted to show me the worst, and just let me know that I need you to share my glory, and share your story, because it could save your life.
I'm sure that felt
for
as eternity.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sure it did feel like eternity.
It did. I asked my wife when I came out, because she didn't even know I was awake and talking. So I told my doctor, or the nurse at the time, call her, I need to talk to my wife. And he's like, it's 4 a.m, and I said, I don't care, I was yelling, call her, I'm talking, it's like, because I didn't know how long I'd been in a coma. So I called her up, and she was still taking care of my boys. She just started a new job, and so she was, she was tired. So she was coming to see me after work and at lunch, and then going back to work, and she was just exhausted. When I saw her, finally I saw, it's like, oh my God, you're going to end up in the bed next to me if you don't get some rest, So when I talked to her on the phone, she goes, okay, and I forget what she even said. She said something like, all right, let me check with, somebody at her work. She said, let me check with such and such and see if I can come see you, in the morning before work. And I was like, are we still married? And she's like, what? I was like, well, you said somebody else's name. You got to check with your new husband? I didn't know, I was like, I didn't know how long it was. And she's like, no, silly. It's like, it's my new boss, And so I had no idea. It was only 3 weeks. To me, it seemed like it could have been, 2 years, 3 years. I had no idea. And then I looked at my body, and I felt like I looked like I'd been in there forever, because I had lost all my muscle. I looked like I was a skeleton. It was the weirdest. It didn't even look like me. I looked at my legs and I was like, is that me? Because I couldn't move. I was still paralyzed, but I finally was able to talk, and I could only move my hands. I actually felt like I was fighting. Like, I just kept wanting to, and just kept, and then finally I started moving my hands a little bit, and then all of a sudden I was able to, I'd try and pick up something, I couldn't hold it, it'd just fall out of my hands, and so they didn't know if, like my brain was going to come around, but yeah, it was really weird, because like you said, there was no time. That could have been 2 years, that could have been 2 hours, to me it was forever. I felt like I was battling to get out of that for, I can't even explain how long, it felt like it was never ending.
One of the things I heard that kind of caught my mind, I heard a couple of things. One is time is not linear. So basically, that's kind of a proof of that. Time is not linear. You're just in the moment, and you don't know how long you've been there for. And another one that also helps me a lot of times, when you run behind, when you're in a rush to get somewhere, traffic. I used to be having this road rage. I'm like, oh, I need to get there so quickly. And if I left 5 minutes ago, I would have been there. But then this phrase had changed my perspective. There is no such thing as time. There is divine timing. And we walk in divine timing. Because if you left 5 minutes later,
something else could have happened. You may not have made
you
it.
may not have. You may have hit a car, or you could have been hit by a car. Something could have fell.
I try and explain that to my wife. I said, it's about fate.
About fate.
If you rush and change your destiny, that light turned red for a reason. Because you're supposed to wait here for a minute. You're not supposed to be up ahead of there. So it's like everything's already planned out. That's how I feel life is now. Like meeting you and being here. I met him.
I feel super blessed.
It's really,
this conversation right here is priceless. It's just phenomenal.
I love telling it, because especially I like I said, it took me a year to even talk about it. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anybody what I saw. And then I told just a little bit to somebody, and unfortunately it was my pastor at my church, and I almost saw fear. He didn't it was the weirdest feeling. I don't understand it. I almost saw fear in his eyes when I told him, I was in a battle with good and evil, and he just kind of, whoa, and then he just kind of walked away from me, and I was like, wow, that was strange. So I didn't talk about it for a while, and then all of a sudden I just got one night, I started typing, and I sent you what I wrote, and I put it in, just in a Christian group on Facebook. 1,000 people reached out to me. I had people calling me through Facebook to pray for me and pray with me. And so, I didn't even tell them what I saw, when I told them everything that happened after. I didn't tell them what I saw when I died, because I was afraid of what, that they'd think I was crazy, or it'd scare them, because it's a scary story, but, good ending, but it's a scary story. Like I said, I didn't see the white light and, family waiting for me and all. That's the story I've heard 1,000 times, and that didn't happen to me. So then finally when, that made me go, okay, people need to hear the rest of the story, because they were blowing my phone up. Tell me what you saw when you died. We want to know, and then they started accusing me of teasing them about writing a book. They're like, is this just a teaser for a book you're writing? So I said, well, so you know what? So I sat down and I said, due to the 1,000 Christians that reached out to me, I'm going to tell you what I saw. And then I did that, and I have had over 2,500 Christians reach out to me now after that. And
wow.
And it's it's just been overwhelming, and it's great. It's like now I'm not afraid to tell my story. It's like I was afraid, and it wasn't really for me. I was afraid to scare people away, just not from me, but from Jesus, because it's like, it's a scary story, it's like, I don't know. I don't know why, how to explain it, but I didn't know how they would react. And the first couple people I did mention it to, they didn't react well to it. They didn't want to hear it, and I didn't want that, because I want them to hear it. So I had to figure out a way to tell it. So I started with what happened after and all the blessings that had happened after, and then it piqued their curiosity to want to know what I did see when I died.
Yes.
So then I was able to tell them that, and they listened and weren't afraid because they knew the ending was happy. It's like I didn't start off with the fear and then go to the to the rest of, I'm still living, so it's not over. but so I'm in a lot better place now than I was before. At least, mentally, physically. I mean, I'm very, very blessed, and they still don't know what actually killed me. It's like I had an allergic reaction, but they can't tell me what it was. They have no idea.
Allergic reaction to the devil?
Yeah, yes, that could be.
Damn demons, I'm kind of allergic to.
I mean, I really believe that the devil had it out for me, and I've dodged quite a few near-death experiences. I mean, I was in the riots in 1992 in California, right in the middle of downtown, and I was one block away where they dragged the truck driver out, and they were jumping on the side of my truck, throwing bottles, and I've ran into a house and pulled people out of a burning house, and it was like reflex. And I've always been in the, I guess, right place at the right time. Instead of, a lot of people go, you're bad luck. You're always like I pulled 5 ladies out of a rolling. They rolled a van in the middle of I-35. I was coming back from Oklahoma, and I just saw the dust. And next thing I know, I'm inside this van dragging these ladies out. 3 of them ended up passing. But when the police came up, I was covered in blood, and the trooper, and then a bunch of cars had stopped, and he said, "Did you see the accident?" And I said, "Not really. I just saw the dust, And he looked at me and he goes, you need to get out of here. He said, some people sue if you move them and you may have hurt them. And I was like, the van was smoking. It was upside down, so I thought it was going to catch on fire. But I look back and I go, what was I doing? I jumped into this burning van, and it's like, what do I think I'm Superman or something? But it was reflex. And so I've always just been in those type of situations, and
Armor of God.
maybe that's why you saved me, so I can save somebody else.
Pay forward, absolutely. Wow, and 2020 has been a phenomenal year. A lot of people met a lot of devastation, and they met a lot of need, but at the same time, it gave so much other opportunity to people, I think, during this situation. And again, it's how you look at your life. Are you looking at it as this opportunity is done for me and this is the end, or are you looking at it and think about 15 other ways of how you can get out? Stop knocking on a closed door. There might be a huge gate open behind your back. Just turn around and look.
Yeah.
Just keep looking, because God never leaves us alone. We always have miracles around us.
Yeah.
And you have tests too, and there's people who they're not ready to be tested. They're not ready to have anything but flowers and daisies and warmth. And when he tells people, what he sees, and he doesn't get a reaction, people, I think deep down they see that and they think, man, is that what I'm going to see? I don't think I even want to touch this. And like he was saying, how he had to say the good before the bad in his story. If he were to tell the bad first, they'd start reading it and they'd say, I don't want to finish this. I'm afraid where this goes. And so when you see, hey, there was a test, you see you already passed it, and then you hear the actual test, or the hardship or the struggle, people don't understand that even that is a sign from God. That is a blessing in itself, because hey, you may not enjoy falling on hard times, you may not enjoy seeing certain things, but it's those things that they light something in you or something under your butt, and you say, okay, well, something's got to change, because there is something going on, and I realized I may not have been in the right direction of it or on the right side of it, but now and there's people who even though they say they're believers, they still may not be ready to hear. There's people who are Christians who don't want to hear, oh, you have to repent for your sins in order to be saved, and hey, you're not perfect just the way you are. We have to go towards this guiding light and this and that. And I'm not going to get into any preachy, any theological stuff,
but just going to church doesn't save you.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saved and didn't go to church, so
it's not a social club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Just long and short, because you can have it pretty much a church in your heart, in your house, but fellowship and a group energy is what makes it stronger. And if you go with faith, you're not going to see your friend's next outfit and see how everybody's going to look and just say hi, and because you're bored, then that's not the place. That you should not be there.
He doesn't care how good you look in your makeup and your fancy clothes or what kind of car you're driving. None of that
Absolutely.
matters. It's who you are inside.
Well, I am absolutely blown away, and I'm really appreciative for you guys taking your time and being here.
It's my pleasure. I hope it helps somebody,
and
even if only one.
One is plenty, in my opinion, too. That's huge. If you can save one life, it's just mind-blowing, and that's why kudos to doctors and nurses that save lives on daily matters.
I had a dream, just on ending, I had a dream that, I went to heaven, and they said, God comes up and says, want to see all the people you helped get here? And I'm like, how awesome would that be? It's like, that would just be incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
That's my goal.
That's a beautiful goal to have, absolutely. And I want to thank our listeners for watching our podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think, what your experiences were in life. And we're here at the Turkish Cafe and Lounge with As Real As They Come Dallas. Thank you.